Hey, it's me. I see they did exactly what I said they might do. Delete that last video. What, it made it about 6 days? I'm not sure. For those that missed it, it's basically saying the CDC is behind the virus, but it gives great details. Yep, there's something bigger going on. We're entering uncharted territory and the outcome can be many possibilities. The realities I'm seeing keeps changing. Right now, everyone seems to be out for self. Too many things going on. Now, I wanted to talk about this last week, but things came up. First off, they're lying about them numbers.
It says one day old Louisiana girl dies of COVID-19. Okay, that's what it says from coronavirus. It says 1 day old dies from coronavirus in Louisiana. You guys better share this, because I'm telling you, I'm about to drop a bomb on you. Why the hell this is not all over local TV is beyond me. Now listen, it says 1 day old girl dies from coronavirus in Louisiana. Then you click on the hyperlink. You click on the link that the original story comes from. Now here's the original story. Listen to this. Premature baby dies from COVID-19 complications in Louisiana. Totally different. Right here it says 1 day old baby dies of coronavirus in Louisiana. This is fake news. Okay? This is not. Let me tell you what happened. It says right here, 1 day old baby girl dies from complications due to COVID-19. According to East Baton Rouge Parish Coroner Bo Clark, MD, Clark says a pregnant mother was admitted to Baton Rouge Hospital April 1st with COVID-related symptoms, including shortness of breath and fever. She was placed on a ventilator and tested positive for COVID-19. Okay, now listen. The mother went into premature labor, delivered the daughter at 22 weeks early. 22 weeks early. You guys, at 20 weeks is when you find out the sex of the baby. Okay, so 22 weeks, the baby's not even, it's halfway done cooking. Okay, so the baby dies from that. The baby didn't survive. It didn't die from COVID-19. The baby did not die. Now, every mother in Louisiana, every mother across the world that sees this article, every person that's pregnant is going to be scared shitless because some a-hole is allowing this to happen. Now, I can't get on an airplane and yell bomb. I can't go into a movie theater and yell fire. That's a felony. But these assholes are allowed to propagate fake news, saying it's not a virus. It sure is. We don't have a cure for it, just like we don't have a cure for the cold or the cure for the flu or anything else. And oh, by the way, don't you think it's really interesting if you look at the stats of how not right now all the COVID-19 coronavirus deaths are rising? Guess what's dropping massively? Deaths from pneumonia, deaths from the flu, and deaths from heart disease and heart attacks. Don't you think it's a bit ironic? What, are people not dying from heart attacks anymore? Are people not dying from pneumonia? Are they not dying from the flu? Nope. Apparently COVID-19 and coronavirus fixed that. So now every person that dies now, for the most part, is getting labeled, toe tagged with COVID-19 coronavirus.
When you see language that says a death linked to, or complicated by, or complications from, what that should instantly tell you is that they're lying, that they're omitting facts, that this was not a death that was caused and brought on by coronavirus. Case in point, a man died yesterday from leukemia, and the headline said died from coronavirus. He had stage 4 leukemia. That is pointedly ridiculous. You would never, ever do that for any other death. So I had posted on my Facebook about this particular incident and posted his tweets, and I just said, again, my gut is telling me something is missing, and I was absolutely correct. And I want to be sensitive or sensitive to what these parents are going through, so I want to limit the details that I give you here. But I can tell you definitively that the infant that died in Hartford, Connecticut died because of a terrible at-home tragedy that these parents did not lie about. And the police were called, and as I think people have already figured out, the infant was brought to the hospital, had already succumbed to its injuries. And so this was not a case where they ever even needed to test for COVID-19. It was an open and shut case. They knew exactly what happened. But because of a new process where no matter how someone dies, they are tested for COVID-19. We do this for nothing else. Okay, if I died today, dropped dead of a heart attack or an asthma attack, I have asthma, and they know that I had an asthma attack, they are going to test me for COVID-19, and they are going to say that was a COVID-19 death. This is what happened with this infant.
Here, it take 24 hours. You feel what I'm saying? They didn't swab me or test me or nothing to look what the fuck paper say. Reason for visit, fever. Diagnosis, COVID-19. They didn't test me for this shit. He told me I had it, bro. He didn't test me for it. He told me I fucking had it, bro. He told me I fucking had it, bro. Come on now. Come on now. Look at what my temperature was. I ain't even had no temperature when I went in that bitch. Come on now. But because I told him I can't taste and smell, he know I got it. Oh, well, that's the number one symptom that's been going around lately is not the smell or taste. So I'm not gonna say, we're just gonna say you have it and quarantine you for 2 weeks. That's exactly what he said, bro. We're just gonna say you have it. We're just gonna tell you have it. So they diagnosed me with coronavirus.
As a physician, I received an email last week from the Department of Health coaching me on how to fill out death certificates. And I've never really received coaching from the Vital Statistics agency in terms of how to do a death certificate. But basically, I felt like they were saying, you know, you don't have to have a confirmed laboratory test for COVID-19 in order to make the death certificate be COVID-19.
My heart is sinking right now as you're telling me this. You're a doctor. Why in the world would they be sending you out information to fill out death certificates, whether the person's been diagnosed with COVID-19 or not, but then to say in the death certificate this person's death was caused by COVID-19? That does not sound right to me.
I went to the person in our office who does most of the death certificates over the last 10, 20 years, and I said, does this sound right? I had her look at the documents that I printed off, and she said, well, we've always been told that you always put down just facts. You don't put down any probabilities. You don't put any presumptions down. It's just what you know. And so this is concerning, and it actually gets to your point, Chris. When we start talking about the data that goes into the modeling, we have to ask ourselves a question. Are we being forthright? Are we sharing with the public?
So with that being said, why would they want to skew the number of deaths due to COVID-19?
Well, fear is a great way to control people. And I worry about that. I worry that sometimes we're so darn interested in just jazzing up the fear factor that, sometimes people's ability to think for themselves is paralyzed if they're frightened enough. And that's not where I want people to be. I want people to say, we're going to get through this. I'm going to use my head. I'm going to go to different sources. I'm going to listen to different sources. And I'm going to think for myself, because that's what America's about.
What's up, Danny? All right, man. What do you know, babe? You can take out the mask, Doug. The case fatality rate's like 0.1 to 0.3 according to USC. Is it really? That's reassuring. USC. Everybody here's been vaccinated anyway. USC and LA County Public Health came up with a study. They found that there are 7,000 cases in California, but they really believe that there are anywhere from 221,000 to 442,000 people who were infected. Really? Yeah.
And so that makes it 0.1 to 0.3. Okay. Does a study you give out right there?
Yeah, just give it to that. So it suggests that the case fatality rate is 10. It seems to be. Wow. Which puts you right in line with the flu.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's what it is.
So it was a hoax. I don't think it was a hoax.
And to my melanated people, they're really lying to you. The virus is not killing you like they're saying. Keyword, virus. If you only reported numbers from melanated dense cities, you would get those numbers. Talk about the total numbers combined compared to the flu. I'm going to come back to this. Have you ever sat back and thought about, why is the government being so generous? They giving each person $1,200, right? Feels like we're playing Monopoly, but Monopoly starts you off with $1,500 and an extra $500 for each qualifying kid under 17. Unemployment is getting an extra $600. Even some businesses is getting extra money. Now this is the part life loves to throw a little twist in there. They are even sending checks to dead people. Yes, dead people. But that's not the twist part. The twist part, so far it appears surviving relatives can keep the money. That's very nice of them. And suspicious. You know I'm already suspicious about everything, and I'm suspicious about that. Are they stalling for something big and they keeping us quiet by throwing more money at us and we just a grinning, not knowing it can all be worthless at any given moment? They giving us money, haven't got mines yet, not tax for the moment, defer your student loans and garnishment, extra $600 for unemployment. Why are they so concerned about us? They messed up bad. You know they messed up when they're releasing prisoners. and a lot of them have no place to go wandering around a ghost town. Now, is it me or does it seem like the government is taking inventory of its citizens? They're collecting everyone's identity. They'll know who's living and who's dead once you cash that check. They're collecting DNAs from test kits, which they're strongly advising people to do. And who's out of work through the unemployment office. And for the rest of us, collect your DNA through a suggested mandatory antibody test. And don't forget what came to your doorstep and being heavily pushed this year, the 2020 census. More CEOs stepped down early this year. More and more I keep hearing a lot of these people are connected to Jeffrey Epstein. Now, it's very plausible that 2 months after Jeffrey's mysterious death, he cut a deal and possibly kept some of his fortune from that vanishing bank account he owns. That the elite had their coronavirus drill simulation to plan their escape, and they had the virus released to buy themselves time. The Queen stepped down. Prince Charles has corona. Who the hell he been around to catch corona? Fuck out of here. Prince Harry distanced the hell out of himself from the royal family. He knows something wrong. That's why he and his wife trying to be good Samaritans. Guilty conscience, maybe. They would never release a virus without a cure. While people trying out experimental drugs and vaccines, who's to say they're not testing a new drug for something else on you to create another problem solution scenario? I don't know. There's too many other things that doesn't make sense. Just keep those on the back burner. Organic fruits and vegetables seems to spoil quicker. Our new hot peak times in Georgia is between 4 and 6 when it used to be between 12 and 2. Speaking of making sense, while they releasing prisoners, the DEA attacks top Mexican drug cartel leading to 600 arrests. 600. So you know they busting some of those people's houses, corona and all. This lockdown sure makes it convenient to make arrests. Then you have another sex traffic ring got exposed. Now this is one of those moments where you can see two realities. Is the US performing a cleanup for the new norm, or is somebody snitching? If more big names being dropped, it's a snitch. And if that's the case, get ready for a ride. Then you have China kicking Africans out because they may be carriers of corona. Ha! They got a lot of damn nerve. Black hatred is strong. And Africa returning the favor. Good for you. Quit turning the other cheek. This racial tension may not have been about race in the beginning. I saw one video that said that the Chinese were retaliating because the Africans were deporting some of the Chinese back because of the corona. Understandable. And now it's flipped and became about race. This feud between China and Africa is not good. What I see, and this is just me, the elites are fighting amongst each other. Possible realities constantly changing. While the pandemic is happening, they doing other stuff. The US and Mexico, Africa and China, Russia and Saudi Arabia. Speaking of Saudi Arabia, they got problems of their own. While Mohammed bin Salman is set to be king, he detained 298 of his own public officials. Somebody snitch. If that doesn't add a twist to the mess, rumor has it that Kim Jong-un, dictator of North Korea, is dead. If that is true, this would be a serious game changer. Get that clone ready, but for now we'll use his body double. Blacks, those numbers about the spike in black deaths are a lie. Don't believe it. Don't believe it. Don't get me wrong, black people are getting it and dying from it, but not at the rate they want you to believe, and not because the virus is designed to kill black people. They're turning away blacks at some hospitals.
31 years, Deborah Gatewood wore the Beaumont badge, doing blood draws at the Farmington Hills Hospital. So in the 3rd week of March, when she got the infamous cough and fever, it's where she turned.
And they sent her home saying, you are showing signs of COVID. So they were confirming that she probably most likely has COVID, but they didn't test her.
Her daughter Kayla marked in a calendar the days her mom went to ER.
She actually went that Monday.
She says her mom was sent home 4 times, once with cough medicine, each time told to rest. The fever got higher and symptoms worse.
The fact that she got infected doing the job that she loved doing for 31 years and she couldn't get taken care of by her own family, that being Beaumont, is just sad. It's disheartening, to say the least.
By the end of March, she withered away, developing bilateral pneumonia.
So all of this time where you're telling her to go home and rest it off, how do you really rest off bilateral pneumonia, you know, without any type of treatment? other than cough medicine to try and cough it out. It's too severe at this point.
Deborah collapsed and was taken by ambulance to the nearest hospital, Sinai Grace. At that point, inundated and understaffed, it's where she'd spend her final days.
I just went up to the hospital, sat in the parking lot. You know, just if this is as close as I can be to her, if this is going to happen, I'm going to sit in my car until I get that phone call.
This only child said goodbye to her 63-year-old mother, 2 years from retiring when she'd be a full-time grandma.
So she said, I'm hanging there for a couple more years. And she said she's going to retire, and then she was going to be the greatest grandmother nanny that I needed her to be to take care of my daughters.
It was a different point in the pandemic a month ago when Deborah first went to Beaumont's ER. We asked the hospital what their protocol is now for admitting people. This was the response. As patients come to Beaumont for care during this pandemic, we are doing everything we can to evaluate, triage, and care for patients based on the information we know at the time. We grieve the loss of any patient to COVID-19 or any other illness. Last night on The Edge, we shared a very similar story to this one. A father and son turned away at multiple Metro Detroit hospitals. Sadly, they both passed. After that story aired, we received many messages from people all over saying this happened to them or their loved one. This is definitely not isolated to Beaumont Health.
They have stated on mainstream media that black people have all of a sudden become the #1 group of people who are infected or affected. I find that very interesting. They also stated from the White House at the White House press conference that though other countries and though other areas are recording the deaths or the issues from people having heart problems or kidney problems as heart problems and kidney problems, we here are counting those as COVID-19. This was from the White House press conference, and out of their own mouth, they stated they are recording certain things that are not coronavirus, that are not COVID-19, that were not tested to be such, not determined to be such as COVID-19. So they are actually skewing the numbers. The numbers are not entirely correct. They're exaggerating. They're lying.
That propaganda is to instill fear in you, and fear weakens your immune system. It also drops a seed of self-inferiority. Get rid of it. And it also puts in the mind of other race that you as a race catch the virus easy and are the real spreaders, and probably why China tripping. And also to keep some of you hard-headed Negroes in the house. You should automatically know it's a setup when they seem like they're concerned about your life. They don't give a damn about their own counterparts, so you know they don't give a shit about yours. If this disease was killing blacks like they claim, they would keep that mess quiet while we all die. That would be a dream come true for white supremacy. Here's something interesting to think about, and this goes for everybody. When there's a chickenpox outbreak, what do? Get exposed so we can build immunity. Measles, same thing. Flu, same thing when you get the shots. But the shots have way more disgusting ingredients. You would be safer just catching it. So why wouldn't it be the same for coronavirus? It's a weaker version of the flu. The reason they want to keep us in the house may not be to keep people from finding out what they're doing out in the open. Some essential workers shouldn't have been able to catch that. Besides, that's what people did with the Spanish flu, stayed inside. It's procedure. Only except the Spanish flu was much more deadly, and they want to put that same fear in your mind. Now what if the real reason they want everyone to stay inside is so they can't build immunity? If the majority of people stayed inside when everything settles, the second wave will hit those that haven't built immunity for staying inside. White supremacists' favorite ratchet queens got fired from Fox News for spreading lies. How'd they get that job anyway? They got fired for tweeting what they think and not what they're told. They tweeted, "The only way we could become immune to the environment, we must be out in the environment. Quarantining people inside their houses for extended periods would make people sick." Did they leak some truth? We all know the media would terminate you quicker for telling the truth before a lie.
And the fact of the matter is, we're not going to win this battle by kicking the can down the road. At some level, we're going to win this battle by having enough people become immune to it, by getting the disease. And it's a mild disease in 90% of the people. So the idea of minimizing this wave of the pandemic so that the next wave in the fall of the year will be greater, that doesn't necessarily make a ton of sense either.
With rumors of a second wave only makes sense because people that's locked in their houses and practicing social distancing are not immune and will be the new fake numbers. That's why they want you to stay away from each other so bad. They don't want you to figure it out. 2020 motto of the year, we're all in this together. Don't believe it. That's their way of getting you to follow the masses. Another reason they pumping so much fear is to make this disease so scary so when it comes around again, many people will accept the vaccine before they realize they're already immune to it. Face the fear and you will see what they're doing. Don't allow fear to control your life. Where I work, there are a lot of workers. Many of us are not practicing social distancing. Hell, we just started getting masks 2 weeks ago and it became mandatory to wear last week. A little late, but yet no one got sick. My wife's job has constant people coming in and out and neither her or her co-workers are sick. It's the flu. How do you beat the flu? Alkaline diets, soups, hot liquids, and most importantly, wash your hands. Also, you don't have to wait to get sick to have some soup every now and then. Prevention is more effective than the cure. The whole thing is a front to get you to accept the vaccine and reset the economy. It's easier to control poor and sick slaves. They now want to test people to see if they have the antibodies. They're collecting everyone's information, inventory, and we're not quite out of the woods yet. We may be headed for a food shortage. Meat plants are shutting down, which means they will most likely euthanize the animals. They're pouring oversupply of milk down the drain, and lots of vegetables are being wasted because orders have been canceled for schools and restaurants. Just thought I'd throw that out there. Before I go, there's also one more reality that's very real, and it's in every reality I see. While you're distracted by money they throwing at you, or lack of money, and locked in the house, take a moment and go outside and look up. You may catch something out of the ordinary. We all heard the talks of massive asteroids, Nibiru, second sun. Something is out there. I've been saying it for a couple of years. It's coming this way. The real question, what is it?